Do you want him or do you just want him to like you? If you don't dismantle like your own internal male gaze, your own internal misogyny, you can end up dating with the goal of just like wanting to be wanted. Let's reframe it, girls. You're not nagging. You are not a nag. You're managing a man. You're managing a household with a man who wants the benefits of a wife without the labor of being a husband. Let's talk about it. A lot of men do not want a partner. They want a wife. And not in a sweet, like, let's grow together and share everything kind of way. No, I mean like the 1950s fantasy where you cook, where you clean, where you soothe his emotions, where you have his babies, where you organize his dentist appointments, and somehow still make him feel like he's the strong leader of the household, even though he doesn't know where you keep the paper towels. Do you want him or do you just want him to want you? Today we're discussing why male-centered dating is setting women up for failure. Welcome back to Stay at Home Feminist. Your soft girl era starts here along with the fall of the patriarchy. I'm your host, CC Binx, and today we're talking about how the patriarchy has sold us a romantic novel. And it continues to distort our reality and leave millions of women disappointed. From craving male validation to doing all the emotional labor, to getting stuck in marriages that feel more like management positions. Today, we are unpacking it all because we've all been there. When you're dating someone who gives nothing, the second they give you a crumb, it feels like a buffet. But it's not, all right? It's still a crumb. It's still a crumb. Let's get into it. Do you want him or do you just want him to like you? If you don't dismantle like your own internal male gaze, your own internal misogyny, you can end up dating with the goal of just like wanting to be wanted instead of trying to find a good partner and trying to find a good match. And that's the problem with the patriarchy in our dating pool. One of the problems. What is the male gaze and how do we internalize it? From a young age, women are taught to view themselves through the eyes of men, aka the male gaze. GAZE. We're taught to dress, speak, and even shrink ourselves, not for comfort, not for authenticity, but for appeal, and specifically to appeal men, to appeal boys. It's all about being wanted, not being good enough for yourself, but like being good enough for others. Again, specifically, usually men. And when you're dating through the male gaze, it's really easy to confuse validation and desire. What do I mean by that? We often mistake being wanted for actually wanting someone, which is pretty understandable when you think about it, because the patriarchy wires us to conflate external validation with internal desire. Like capitalism does the same thing we've talked about this, like with the job force and hustle culture and all of that. This is really similar to some of those concepts we've just discussed before. We're taught from a very young age to prioritize external validation instead of internal wants, internal needs, internal desire. So when we're dating, if a man finds us attractive or calls us wife material, a lot of times we assume we want him back because we've been trained to follow that sort of validation. But attraction is not an obligation. Being seen is not the same as being loved. And if you tug at this thread a little more, not only are women and girls taught to prioritize external validation over their own internal needs and wants, they're also taught not to disappoint men. Like I remember being like in middle school and having boys have crushes on me and me not liking them back and being like, I guess I have to be your 7th grade girlfriend now because how am I going to turn down a boy? Because like even as a 7th grader, I felt like I should be prioritizing men's needs over my own or boys' needs at that age. I wasn't dating men as a 7th grader. Do you know what I mean? And that's just a little thing, you know, obviously I like didn't date my 7th grade boyfriend forever and like marry him. But I remember even from a really young age when a boy liked me, it kind of felt like he just like assumed I would like him back and be his, where I was like, wait, what? Like, no, I don't like you back. Like, no, I don't want to do those things. And it kind of just felt like this pressure and this force. And no one explained it to me. No one told me that, but those were just the vibes. Those were just the vibes from a very young age. And the older you get, sometimes you learn not to just like date people because they like you, because like that probably won't end up well. The older you get, you also usually learn like what are your likes, what are your dislikes, and all of that, which can help you start to figure out the type of person you're looking for, opposed to just chasing that validation. But women can get married young. Like if you get married at 23 before your frontal lobe is developed, like if you have kids young, like that's who you're tied to for life, which is fine. Like no judgment, no shame. And also like, I wish people were having this conversation when I was a lot younger, because I think it would have saved me maybe some confusion, maybe some like saying yes to things that I didn't want to do. So one takeaway from this episode, I think the whole point of this episode can be summed up in one sentence, is his validation, his desires do not trump your internal feelings about yourself or the situation. And that's something I wish I didn't have to learn through experience. That's something I wish that was just like ingrained in the fabric of society, where I feel like it's the opposite. And I've had to do a lot of dismantling of like my inner misogyny, my inner patriarchy, because it's there and it's thriving, because that's all I've known for so long. And now I'm like in my 30s and I'm married to an amazing feminist man who supports and loves me. But before I met him, I was like, oh, I guess I have to be single forever, because every man I've been with, like, it doesn't allow me to fully be me, wants to control me. I was just like a little caged bird, just trying to like fly. And I remember when I was younger, just being like, I guess the answer is to be alone forever, because what's the alternative? This is before I had a lot of the words I use now. I don't even think I knew what the patriarchy was back then. I don't think I even knew what internalized misogyny was back then. But luckily, I was wrong and I found an amazing man. But I think it took me getting to a point where I was like, I would rather be alone and be free and be myself than be with someone who isn't making my life better, who isn't like supporting me, who isn't just like adding to my life, and who is expecting me to be like this matronly woman who does traditional things, because I'm not a traditional girl. Never have been, never will be. And that just is what it is. The patriarchy teaches women that being chosen means you're valuable, which again can make it a lot easier for us to end up in relationships that we don't actually want to be with, or end up with people that we don't actually want to be with, because we're wired to just be excited about being chosen. And I think that might have been the case for me often in the past. And again, I think I got to a place where I was like, I would rather never be chosen and be happy than be chosen and unhappy. And I like had to get there to then like kind of start to have standards for myself and who I date, and like be like, this is my long list of bare minimum, and I probably won't ever find anyone with all of these things, but if you don't have all of these things, we're not doing it. And I found my man with my long laundry list of things, so have high standards. Don't listen to people who are like, lower your standards. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter your this, doesn't matter your that. Like, have your standards. And in the meantime, get to know yourself and have fun being on your own, Women have been conditioned for centuries to believe that being picked is the ultimate goal. It's no wonder there's so many pick-me's, like we're literally like indoctrinated to be pick-me's. But your worth doesn't rise or fall depending on someone's ability to recognize it. That's the problem with like going after external validation and not internal, because then you're always like chasing the next job, the next this, the next friend, the next boyfriend, the next whatever it is, And there's also a difference between being wanted and being valued. And I think that's what the patriarchy kind of like really left out of this whole thing, where women are just like, I want to be wanted. I wish more women wanted to be valued. I wish younger me wanted to be valued. I mean, I think I did on some level, but when you're sort of programmed to go after that validation, someone wanting you can be enough to like make time and space for them. And it shouldn't be. I think a lot of that came out for me when I was younger by like my cool girl performance, my cool girl mask that I was wearing, where I was just trying to be like a cool, casual, low maintenance girl, which was really just like the patriarchy pretending to reward me for taking up less space and like not getting my needs met, or like not even knowing that I was allowed to have needs. So, I mean, it's a lot easier said than done when we've been ingrained to think this way, but like, how do we decenter men and center ourselves, especially in something like dating when you want to date men? Like, that might sound like an impossible thing to do. Like, one check-in you can do with yourself is ask yourself, do you enjoy him? Or do you enjoy how much he likes you? Like, do you enjoy him fully, him, his humor, his personality, his this, his that? Not his potential, not him wanting you, like actually him as a person. Do you actually like him? Do you actually enjoy spending time with him? Or are you just enjoying how much he wants you, how much he validates you? Or sometimes the opposite. Like sometimes it can be like he doesn't give you enough attention. So you're like trying to get that validation, like trying to get that like attachment from him. Another thing that the patriarchy really bakes into like dating culture, but also just like marriage and heterosexual relationships in general, is emotional labor being a love language. Like emotional labor is not a love language. Acts of service is, and I'll give you that. I love receiving acts of service. So like, if that's your love language, that's great. That's not what I'm talking about. What do I mean by emotional labor? What does that look like in relationships? Emotional labor is often something that the woman does in a relationship. And it's all the little things that men just get to like not care about, you know, like remembering his family members' birthdays, coordinating trips with his family and friends, like these things, which like I do that and I can be happy to do that. It doesn't feel like labor to me when I do that because me and my husband have a very balanced relationship where like I'm not expected to do everything. So when I do these things I enjoy, like I'm happy to do it. So take some discretion with what I'm saying and figure out what works for you. It's not like I will like never coordinate a trip with my husband's family. Like I'm happy to. I love them. I want to see them. But I think like I'm saying this in the grander picture of where not only are women expected to do emotional labor, they're expected to do unpaid labor. And, you know, the wheel of the patriarchy continues to spin. So emotional labor in relationships can look like tracking dates, managing his moods, explaining his feelings to him, things like this. This is especially true if you're like dating an emotionally immature person. I was the more emotionally immature person in my relationship, and my husband has helped me like learn how to use my words and like not combust into a ball of fire every time I'm like feeling anything. Or like the opposite, like suppress all my feelings. So that's a green flag. I mean, if you're with someone who's emotionally immature, like I haven't always been emotionally mature. You can grow, you can change, but the person has to want to grow and change. Like I feel like some people who are emotionally mature are like, this is the way to be and I don't strive for anything else. And like, I don't know, that can be hard. And that's why it's important to like look at the excuses you make for him. Like if you're like, oh, he's just bad at communicating. Like, is he? And is that important to you? Because even if he was, if that's important to you, he should be able to work on that. Another way sort of this like unpaid labor, emotional labor thing can show up is what I like to call like the mommy girlfriend phenomenon or the mommy wife phenomenon, depending on who we're talking about. It's this like idea that men who get doted on by their moms don't really learn to become self-sufficient. You know, if their mom was folding their underwear and washing their dishes and making them dinner every night, they sort of expect their girlfriend or wife to do that. And then you end up in this like mommy husband relationship. And that's not sexy. Like that's gross. Like I don't want to feel like my husband is one of my kids. Like I don't think anyone wants to feel that. And it can't feel good on the other end. Like even if the man is like, oh, it's so nice to have dinner every night. Like you don't want to your mom. So stop treating your wife like your mom. You know, like it's bad for everybody. The patriarchy is bad for everybody. And so is the mommy wife phenomenon. I think there's this narrative that like men are going to men, you know, have discernment, have high standards. That's how you just kind of avoid these men who want to make you their mom from the beginning, you know, like that's one part of this. Another part of this is like, what can we control and change about ourselves? And I see often women like are convinced by the patriarchy that martyrdom is like the best way to love. And no, go be lazy. Go embrace your soft girl era. Like go do anything other than be a martyr. If this resonates with you, that's what you get to work on. Love is not labor. Love is not labor. You don't have to earn your relationship. The care should be mutual. The household labor should be mutual. It should be simpatico. It should be flowing together. And you shouldn't have to feel like you have to be a martyr to like keep a man. That's a red flag. That's not your man, my girl. You shouldn't be fighting that hard. You should be resting while he makes you dinner. So what are some like early signs of this? I feel like I hear my friends say some things that I'm like, that's a bell. He's just bad at texting. Maybe he is. But if you're newly dating someone and he's not putting in consistent like communication efforts, I don't like that for you. Because how is he going to communicate with you like 5 years from now, you know? And you're part of the problem too. If you're convincing yourself that him being bad at texting is like a personality quirk instead of lack of interest or like emotional immaturity or like bad communication skills. Like, let's call a spade a spade. Another thing I hear the girlies say to make excuses for men is like, he's been hurt before, or like he had a hard upbringing, or like X, Y, and Z, you know? Like, okay, like two things can be true. Like, you can understand where someone's trauma comes from and also not make excuses from it. I'm not saying you like can't be a compassionate person, but like just because you're understanding doesn't mean people can treat you badly. I feel like this excuse, I see it the most with like emotionally unavailable or like avoidant sort of behavior from men, as if his past pain like justifies his present neglect, his present mistreatment of you. Like, it doesn't. Again, like, you know, I don't think life is black and white, and I think it is important to have grace for people, especially if it's someone who is your partner and you're trying to build a life with or like see where things go. And, you know, just because someone's been through something doesn't mean they have the right to be unkind. Another excuse I hear all the time from women about men is like, oh, he's just really busy with work right now. My husband is obsessed with work. He's a Capricorn rising. He's always been like, he's the type of person who like likes to work on the weekends. Like, he loves work. He's never been too busy to text me. He's never been too busy to check in on me, like, ever. And he works like more than anyone I know. So that's not an excuse. When life gets hectic, chronically deprioritizing the relationship can signal that he's not actually committed or not as invested. Being busy doesn't mean that you should be absent. Of course, if my husband is like going into a meeting, I'm not going to expect him to like be texting me, you know? But when we first started dating, especially, and I appreciated this so much, if he was like traveling for work or something, he would like text me in the morning and be like, hey, I have a super busy day. Might be harder to reach than normal. Like, we'll be thinking of you. Have a great day. Love you. Bye. Or maybe before we said, I love you. So he would have just said bye. And then like throughout the day, he would just like text me a little heart emoji and then like text me when he went to bed. So it's like not like I expect a man to be like on his phone 24/7, like talking to me, like, go live your life. I don't have the time to text you that much either. And also, like, no matter how busy my husband's been or like boyfriend at the time, he's always had enough time for me, like as it should be. Because what do you mean? What do you mean? Yeah, these are just some of the many excuses I see women making for men, especially when it comes to like them not being able to hold up their end of the emotional labor part of a relationship. And I haven't even begun really talking about the unpaid labor on top of the emotional labor that's expected of wives and girlfriends and mothers and just like women in general. What do I mean by that? You might be doing all the unpaid labor in your household. If when your man helps around the house, it's like a favor or like something sweet he does for your birthday. Like, no, he should be a self-sufficient man who like can clean up things as well. If not, like, he's not a partner. He's a toddler. He's a grown tall toddler with a mustache and or beard. And what I hate for women is that like their men won't do for them, and they'll like try so hard to be like, can you please help me out with this? Can you please do this? And then their men will be like, oh, such a nag. She's such a nag. Is she a nag? Or have you just not put a dish in the dishwasher since 2009? Let's reframe it, girls. You're not nagging. You are not a nag. You're managing a man. You're managing a household with a man who wants the benefits of a wife without the labor of being a husband. Because it takes two to tango, babe. I think it's like small things too. Like when men are helping, they can't complete tasks on their own. So let's say your man is going to get groceries. Like me and my man share a grocery list, and like sometimes I get them, often he gets them. But it's like, I'm not saying you can't collaborate on that because he might not know that I want this thing I normally don't get, you know? But if your man is going to go grocery shopping and is like, just tell me what to get, like that is unpaid labor. Like he should be able to go grocery shopping and create the grocery list and check the pantry and like plan some of the meals for the week and like know what to buy accordingly. And remember like the almond milk brand you like that feels very reasonable and normal to me. Like if I'm doing that, you should be able to do that. And again, like I don't think things are black and white. Like when I go to the store, I'm like, is there anything you want that we don't normally get? You know, I'll ask him, I'll say, add anything else that's not on the list. I've made the grocery list, add anything else to the list that you want, you know, like we're a team, and he'll do the same. And I'm not going to be like, patriarchy. at him. I mean, I might, just depending on the day, depending on where I am in my cycle. So I'm not saying like things can't be a collaboration. And also, if even when he's helping, he needs you to hold his hand, that's a red flag. Like, that's the point I'm trying to make. Another part of this like unpaid labor phenomenon that I see happening a lot in heterosexual relationships is weaponized incompetence. For example, he's like, I don't know how to fold the sheets like you do. No one knows how to fold a fitted sheet. No one knows how to do that. That's not the point. The point is, you're a 35-year-old man. You should be able to take the sheets out of the dryer and figure out where they go without someone helping you, without adult supervision. And with weaponized incompetence, it's sort of like this thing where the theory goes is that he's like, when he does stuff, he weaponizes being incompetent under the assumption that like you will just do it and you will just take over because it's easier than like watching him struggle. Basically, he's pretending to be bad at the thing, so you'll stop asking him to do it and you'll just do it yourself. And like some people are just bad at things. Like there are things that I'm better at than my husband and my husband's better at than me. And like we know that about each other and we'll split up the labor like efficiently, the household labor like as such, you know? And also look out for weaponized incompetence, ladies. Set your boundaries. Don't do everything for him. Let him struggle. Let him struggle a little bit. It will be good for him. So are you asking for too much or are you just asking the wrong person? Here are some of my biggest red flags when thinking about a man you want to marry. So not like early dating, although look for it then because it's a lot easier to get out of a 3-day relationship than a 3-year relationship. But red flag number 1, he wants a wife and not a partner. Let's talk about it. A lot of men do not want a partner. They want a wife. And not in a sweet, like, let's grow together and share everything kind of way. No, I mean like the 1950s fantasy where you cook, where you clean, where you soothe his emotions, where you have his babies, where you organize his dentist appointments, and somehow still make him feel like he's the strong leader of the household, even though he doesn't know where you keep the paper towels. Red flag number 2. Let's talk about traditional marriage roles and the myth of helping. What do I mean by the myth of helping? When a man says like, I help around the house, what do you mean? It's your house. Help do what? Live in your house? That's him saying, I believe you're the woman's job by default. And I pitch in like, I'm a good boy who's doing above and beyond by like taking the trash out. Like, what? No one's gonna thank you for like helping do your job at work because that's your job. You're not helping. You're doing your job. So why are we giving out gold stars for that guy who like ran a dishwasher once this week? Like, no. Red flag number 3, a man who only wants a wife that cares for them and not a wife that challenges them. You know, it's hard to blame men for this one because the patriarchy told them that's what love looks like. But also, this is the risk you run by dating a man who upholds the patriarchy. Men will say they want a confident, independent woman until she disagrees with them, until she challenges them, until she stands on business, until she has higher standards, until she refuses to be their emotional crutch. And then she's too much or she's too crazy or she's too difficult. Good partners challenge each other. I think a lot of the themes I've talked about in this episode can boil down to sort of one point, which is the patriarchy rewards male mediocrity at home. Like the things dads do, if a mom did that, it's like expected. But when a dad does it, it's like, oh my God, snaps for dad, you know? A dad takes his kids to a grocery store for the day or like is playing with his kids and people are like, you're an amazing father. And it's like, all right. That's just regular schmegular dad stuff. That's like bare minimum is being around. Meanwhile, moms do that like every day and like no applause. This is what happens when we see like when the dad is taking care of the kids in the mom's way. People will be like, dad's babysitting today. Like babysitting your own children is crazy. That's a dad watching his children. He is not babysitting. That is his child. But as a society, we say that because it's like so the default that the mom should be watching the kids and the dad should be like being mediocre somewhere eating cheese dip. And I think a lot of this is rooted in this sort of like provider trap that has been set up by the patriarchy. Men are clinging to this outdated provider identity, except they don't want to give up like power, control, or comfort. Like they want the power and the respect that came with traditional gender roles without any of the actual pressure or responsibility. This is especially true when there's a working mom in the household as well, who is also like bringing in money, but then expected to be a full-time mom and the dad is just like hanging out in the corner eating cheese dip. They're not building a life with you. They're not building a home with you. They're leaning in to this, again, like outdated provider identity while expecting their woman, their wife, their mother of their children to do all this unpaid labor to raise their kids, often to still work, a full-time job, and then like the man wants to be applauded for like bringing home the bacon. Like, let's say we're talking about a scenario where the mom is a stay-at-home mom and the dad is the bacon provider. Like, can we all normalize the fact that even if you are the provider in the family as a man, like that doesn't excuse you from being a dad? Like, you are still a dad and you should still be a good dad. And it doesn't excuse you from being a husband. You are still a husband. You should still be a good husband. Like, you can't only cling to being a provider and bringing home money. And that's like all you're expected to do. Like, that's insane that is so normalized and so accepted in society. So those are some of my red flags to look out. What are like the green flags to look for? What does real partnership look like? I think equity over equality. You know, find something that's fair in your relationship that works for both of you, and find like the easiest way to share the load. And it might ebb and flow. You know, it doesn't have to be the same every year, or every month, or even every day. Find ways to also have like mutual emotional labor where both partners are expected to communicate with each other, hold space for each other, reflect, express needs, And just remember that real love doesn't drain you. A good partnership doesn't drain you. It should restore you. It should support you. Some good questions to ask to figure out, you know, is this right for me? Is, do I feel heard? Do I feel safe speaking up? And does my partner grow with me or weigh me down? In conclusion, you're not dramatic, you're exhausted, and you're not picky, you're finally discerning. Love that for you. Share this episode with your bestie who needs to stop chasing validation and start choosing herself, because we love to see that. It's never too late to start choosing yourself. And join us next week where we dive into the ways that you can trust yourself swimming in the patriarchal dating pool, because it's tough out there for my girls. Thank you so much for joining this week's episode. Like, comment, subscribe, share, do all the things. Sending lots of love to you. I don't know how to do the Gen Z love one. Is it this? No, it's like crazy. I can never do it. I'm a millennial at heart, no pun intended. It's like this. See you next week. Bye.